Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for logging in. Good time. We are about to start. We have about 10 minutes to 4 o'clock. So we'll be starting shortly. So please stay with us and look forward to a very, very productive discussion. Karibuni sana. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to start our session this afternoon, 4 p.m. and we agree that we're going to start exactly 4 p.m. So welcome to this webinar. My name is Henry Ochen. I'm the CEO of CARA, that's the Kenya Alliance of Resident Associations. We are hosting this session today in partnership with Safaricom, who have been working with us to put together a series of webinars with the aim of educating the public on various issues. Of course, engaging, getting to understand what are some of the views and expectations on the various subjects that we discuss. So today we are here for a very, very interesting discussion, which affects all of us in one way or the other. Because when we talk about security, all of us are concerned about security. All of us are interested about security and ensuring that we are safe in our neighborhoods, at work, and everywhere that we go. So our theme of discussion today is leveraging on technology to improve security in Kenya's neighborhood. As you are aware, CARA is about resident associations. And resident associations is about people coming together within their geographical area, within their locality, to address service delivery challenges that they face. And one of the major issues, one of the major reasons why even people form resident associations is to ensure that they are taking care of their security needs and challenges. If you look at the history of resident associations, most of them were formed from the premise of responding to security challenges within the neighborhood. And today we want to look at how then can we be able to look at issues of security, but then responding to it from the point of view of technology. As you are aware, issues of security are very complex. And as we get along with our lives, we keep on becoming complex in nature. And so there's need to have what we call a multifaceted approach to security challenges. And in this age and era of technology, there's no need to even emphasize why we need to apply technology to address our security challenges. We look at how we ensure that we take advantage of security, of advantage of technology to improve security in our neighborhoods. We also know that a number of institutions, including government, private sector, and even organized communities like resident associations, have stepped forward and have made a lot of investment in technology with an aim of addressing security challenges. So as we talk about organized community groups, that is the resident association, we should be able to look at how can they tap into issues of technology to ensure that their homes, their estates, and their neighborhoods are actually safe. And even when they're not at home, their children and the people they leave behind are safe, and they can be able to monitor what is happening in their homes. So there are a number of approaches and a number of technology applications that have been put in place to try and respond to issues of security within the neighborhood. And we have experts who have really worked in this particular sector and understand very well how we can be able to make use of technology to ensure that we are safe wherever we are. So today we've put together a team that is going to talk to us about this subject. And it's a very, very well-experienced team of experts who have worked in these issues of technology and security. And they're going to share with us their perspective, their knowledge, and also the options that we have available to us, either as individuals or as resident associations, or even as companies or institutions. Options that are available to us that can be able to ensure that we are responding effectively to the issue of insecurity or taking advantage of technology to ensure that we are safe wherever we are. So with us this afternoon is Mr. Franklin Ocharo. Franklin Ocharo is the head of home fiber at Safaricom, and that includes something called IoT, Internet of Other Things, which is able to explain to us more. Francis is a commercial leader, building a sustainable future for telecom consumer service while managing cross portfolio of consumer products and services to ensure steady revenue growth and healthy margins to fund the evolution. He's passionate about providing solutions to customers' real-world problems, and is also a specialist in product management, business analysis, product development, business development, and value selling. And of course, an expert on the subject that I'm discussing today. So he's going to talk to us from his perspective, and of course, from the perspective of Safaricom, on how we can be able to take advantage of technology to improve security within our neighborhoods. Joining Franklin is Mr. Tim Chege, who is the Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of Optimum Group, UK Limited. Optimum Group is a parent company to OptiWatch Group, Opticom Kenya Limited, and OptiSafe. Mr. Chege has 23 years of experience in integrated security and safety solutions. He has developed and implemented solutions that design out crime in the built environment. That now includes what I talked about in terms of neighborhoods. His company has managed to protect and secure billions of dollars of assets globally through real-time monitoring, using machine-to-machine technology to pick up incidents in real time. We also have Colonel Retired Julius Kibiri, who is the Executive Director of the Institute of Professional Security Studies. He's a former military officer with 20 years of local and international training and experience. He has over 18 years of experience as a regional security advisor, covering over 10 countries in West and East Africa, including the island of Mauritius, Madagascar, and Reunion. That is the team that we have this afternoon, and we look forward to benefiting from their rich experience and knowledge on the subject of discussion today. And I'm sure that at the end of this particular session, we shall have learned one or two things about the issues of technology and security. So without wasting much time, we are going to proceed to our presentation, but just a few house rules so that we are able to be orderly. All participants will remain muted unless given an opportunity to speak, and we encourage participants to post their comments or questions in the chat box where we shall retrieve it and direct it to the relevant panelists. So if you have a question or comment that you want to be addressed in this forum, please post it on the chat box and go to pick it up. We may allow a few questions to be asked verbally, and we request that if you have a question that you want to direct to any of the panelists, there's an icon there for raising hands. So just click on that, and we'll be able to see your hand raised, and we'll give you an opportunity to ask a question to any of the panelists. When you have that chance to speak, request that to be very brief and to the point, so that we can be able to get your question very clearly. Don't take much time on the question. After the presentation, we may have some questions that were sent in advance that we can be able to put to the panelists. We have a Twitter hashtag. We are trending on Twitter. So you can able to use the hashtag neighborhood security to communicate or to interact on the Twitter platform, so that other people who are not part of the discussion can also follow what we are talking about on Twitter. When you do that, please remember to tag us as Kara. Our Twitter handle is Kara_cares, KE. And we also have these proceedings being streamed live on Facebook. So you can encourage other people to also monitor the same on Facebook. So ladies and gentlemen, without taking much time, allow me to go straight to the presenters. We are going to have them in this order. Franklin Ocharo will open for us the presentation, followed by Mr. Tim Chege from Optimum Group of Companies. And then we'll have Colonel Retired Julius Kibiri make his remarks also on the subject of discussion. Thereafter, we are going to have a plenary session where you can now ask your questions or comments. But like I've said, feel free to raise your hand if you have a question, but also post a question or comment on the chat box to pick it up from there. So allow me now to invite Mr. Franklin Carroll, who is the head of Home Fiber at Safaricom PLC, to make this presentation. Franklin, if you can hear me, please take the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all. Happy to be joining you today for this webinar to discuss this very important topic on how to leverage technology to improve security in the Kenyan residents. As we all know, security is crucial. I think it's among the hierarchy of needs comes pretty second after maybe shelter, actually with shelter, how we secure ourselves and how we secure the places we are. And there are many facets to it, and there are different ways we can dissect how then we play a role in different ways in providing to this important aspect. Coming specifically to today's topic, where we are focusing on the use of technology and seeing how you can use technology to leverage other methodologies that are in play in offering security, we can see the role that Safaricom tries to play in this area in trying to enable residents and residents association in different homes that we serve to be able to secure their areas. The first facet we see when we look at the technology provision for security, we look at connectivity as being the underlying enabler. When we look at the different technology solutions that we can put in play, we find a big play or a big part of it being how we can get this connected, interconnected, and how we can then lay on top the different security solutions that we have in play. And that is where we see Safaricom coming very strongly. In this regard, we offer fiber connectivity. We also offer other modes of fixed connectivity that then allow the different homes, the different estates to be interconnected, and in this way to have a way of then deploying the different security solutions available. But this is still very limited, and especially in this country at the moment, based on the last regulator report from Communications Authority, we only have just about 3% of the households that are covered by fixed connectivity. In fact, if we say let's knock off all households in Kenya based on last year's census or 2019 census that are without electricity, it's still just about 6% of the homes that are actually covered by broadband internet, which you're saying is a core enabler for offering technological solutions to security. And that's why we still strive and we'd want to continue this progress of offering more and more connectivity solutions. And that's why in this regard, we've gone now beyond the fixed fiber connections, and we are now starting to push 4G connectivity, which then we know, at least in Kenya, most of the areas are already covered by 4G, and we can now offer this kind of 4G fixed connectivity to different homes and to different residents. So this is just the layer. It's at the base, saying we need first to have this connection, then we can now build up the different security solutions on top. Having placed the connectivity in play, then we have I think when you come now to the security solutions, there's a broad range that is in play, and it's a multifaceted area, and we are lucky today to have two security experts who are going to detail on that, on how there are different aspects of it. But beyond just the physical part, and we've seen the base form of security being resident associations putting surveillance cameras. We said there's more to it. You can have an internet connectivity that we've provided, get a solution of a surveillance camera that you put in play, but there are other factors that you have to consider. For example, now that you have a surveillance camera, who will monitor it? Who will be looking at what is happening? Who will respond if there's an incident that has happened? So just having the technology in place or just having the camera in place is just one aspect of it. Then beyond having the surveillance camera, how do you they say secure the security, yeah? And to give an example, you may put up surveillance cameras around your resident association. Then you have a bright intruder who's able to access those cameras and then monitor your movements. And in essence, you've actually enabled them to find exactly the right point when they can come in and come into your resident association. So even with the surveillance cameras, you still need a way to secure that, to secure this technology so that it's not accessed by people who are not supposed to get access to it. So beyond that, let's say once we have this in place, how this is then layered on what happens, how it is tracked, how it is monitored, how we respond to these things, then forms a comprehensive security solution. And as I said, the two other panelists will talk more to this part. So in our role, we strive to continue driving this, and we strive to continue being an enabler in this in this area. We have already committed as Safaricom in the next 5 years to cover 1 million homes. Currently, we've covered just over 350,000 homes. So that's more than doing more than double of what we currently have. And this is to make sure we continue enabling this. We have the wireless solutions that then can be used, for example, to take this kind of security solutions to areas that are not yet connected using fiber. In terms of the other solutions, we work with different partners, different security partners who have a wide range of solutions, both on the, let me say, terminals or the devices that are used to offer this part, and also the services that accompany that. And we are happy to continue playing this role and to continue our partnerships with other players in this area so that we can support the residents' associations to secure their places. Beyond physical security, we're also working to offer, we call it logical security. So the main concern, because here, is how we prevent intruders coming into the place. But when we are using the internet service at home, we also try to offer logical security in terms of, say, antivirus protection, anti-malware protection, parental control services, controlling when the internet is being used at home, which can say it's also part of looking at now the logical layer of security. And this then enables the different homes or the members of the different residents associations and the customers we serve have an end-to-end solution that can give them peace of mind when they're at home, because that's what we expect people to get at home, peace of mind. Thank you very much. I'll close with those opening remarks, and I'll be happy to join the discussions and the questions that we'll take up later. Back to you, Stian.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Franklin, for that presentation, brief to the point. And of course, you brought to the fore a number of issues that we need to look at. And, very important is that it's not enough to just put in place security facilities, but you have to talk about who will monitor, who will secure, and make sure that properly functional. So, of course, we have some questions that we directed to you. Some have been sent in advance, and I'm sure they're shared with you. So just be on standby for the next session of the plenary and be able to respond to the questions. We're now going to have Mr. Chege, Tim Chege, that mentioned is the Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of Optimum Group UK Limited. Chege is an expert on issues of security and safety solution, and he's going to just give us his perspective on the subject of discussion today. Mr. Chege, I know you are joining us from the UK. If you can be able to hear me, please take the floor and speak to us.
Yes, I can be able to hear you, and thank you very much. I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you very much for hosting such a wonderful event. It's very timely. Quite particularly excited to just be involved. I've also just thanking all that are joining, especially the communities, residential association, neighborhood programs, security professionals, and all that they have spent their time to join. Thank you very much for that. Just something about our relationship with Kara. So we're very excited to be once more in collaboration with you and also with IPSS on this event. We last did an event in 2019 about looking at launching the Excellence Award that was just to seek and enhance security in the community. We're obviously still moving on a lot of that, seeking to undertake this through education, training of technologies, and of course the principles of SEPTED for how to manage smart communities. I know, Kara, we've worked with you guys through the partnership, also work with the private sectors, work with development partners, government institutions, higher learning, and obviously other service delivery stakeholders. And being main objectives, like for us and Kara, is just how we can develop and put together the community safety program, which my colleague and my good friend Kano Giviri is going to talk more about. So we've worked with IPSS for quite some time with Kano Giviri itself on aspects of combining both strategic thinking, risk analysis, and community safety program. So which is the main overall objective as we launch into technology, that the thought process must be very well aligned to. Franklin, good to see you again, and good to be part of this. Thanks for also helping to put this together. We also met a couple of years back, and we obviously spoke into technology and the idea of how important Safaricom is in terms of connectivity, in terms of how you deliver, the fiber, how you've delivered that infrastructure. May I just say that, it gives me great confidence and to say that for us as a business, we have an adoption of what technology is, and it is hinged on the infrastructure that is connectivity. And Safaricom has helped us a lot, and we have worked with Safaricom on many occasions. In fact, one of the strategies that we have is that wherever Safaricom moves, we are well behind them, and we're looking at where they're installing, and we can obviously then go in and know that any infrastructure of technology is based and hinged on that technology. We run a remote monitoring center, as you can see behind me. It operates globally, and a lot of our global operations, when we receive alarms and everything that we receive, we are running a Safaricom connections, and that is it's very important, because that then creates all these things we're talking about, not only from a local neighborhood, but global. But yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm just delighted to be sharing this event with you as a company owner, as a father. I'm always too aware, and time is of importance, resource we have. And as Stephen King observed in his novel, The Green Mile, that time takes it all, whether you want it or not. And the fact that we have each of us chosen to share our time with one another today is a testimony of the importance, juncture, our industry, security, residential associations, and connectivities, and others find ourselves in and of our need to ensure that we determine a roadmap for the future of security and safety in both public, private sector, and especially in the neighborhoods and the communities. There's a saying that an increasing need for niche security solution and rapid advancements in technology and budget pressures are driving the security industry to explore innovative revenue models to capitalize on opportunities. That's a comment by Frost and Sullivan 2019. And it makes sense that therefore, the more we adapt in technology, the more we adapt in that, the pressures that we have from budgets or developers or residential associations, it makes sense that this timely conversation is there, where we can speak about how technology can help in these areas. Just a little bit about ourselves. We were formed in 1998. We started off with the man guarding solution, and in 1998, it's a long time, but we've moved, and we've seen security move from a typical man guarding, dog handling, into technology. And when we talk about technology, we always talk about technology, which is installations. We talk about physical technology, but then we're now really focusing on technology that is monitored solutions, that is more AI-enabled technology. Technology has moved a lot. We say that if technology isn't monitored, either with an iPhone, either with your phone or a monitoring center, it isn't proactive. So we've seen how technology proactiveness has changed over the time. So we run about three other groups, three other strands in our business, which we focus on consultancy, we focus on implementation and solutions deployments. We also focus on monitoring, which is the fastest growing area about our business, and indeed technology-led here in the UK and I think worldwide. So we're in Kenya. Opticom, yes, is a company mainly that deals with integration, consultancy, and education of systems and areas of technology. So we have extensive experience regionally, and we work within Kenya, Uganda, Sub-Saharan Africa, and west of Africa. So we're proud about our area of expertise and how we've grown. And then our jewel in the crown, I think what we're proud of mostly is we have a global operations on the communication center. With it, it's a fully dedicated ready, respond, recovery service that we deliver to meet security and safety needs globally. And our OptiWatch team is dedicated to utilizing all the latest technology, global best practices and training to help in ensuring the businesses are safe and secure. Thereby we save time and we save money, and of course it's good for business communities. The solutions of this is surveillance, real-time security risk assessment, guards management, workforce management, key holding, etc. So there's a lot of that we go into, and of course I'll invite us to visit later. So just moving quickly, that we're obviously partaking in the fourth industrialization revolution, fourth industrial revolution. And this is an industrial area that is characterized by the amalgamation of technologies, which touch upon the physical, digital, biological domains, etc. So whether we are aware of it or not, we, our peers, family, friends, and all have been touched by these innovations. I mean, in areas such as artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biotechnology, and the Internet of Things. Such technologies have challenged and disrupted the status quo and resulted in programs and progress in all areas of society, and in particular medicine, transportation, communication, commerce, education, buildings and communities. So it may be a truism that the developments in each of these areas are not always been welcome, but progress has been made after all has always tended to have a dark side, but progress has been made to help in this area. So although emerging nations are yet to feel the full impact of the fourth industrial revolution, or indeed an area of expansion of technology and security, some 4 billion or so individuals are connected to the internet. And of course, with the likes of Safaricom, the connections have been very impressive in the way they move on. And these numbers just grows day by day. And this is exciting in our industry. It is obviously then the responsibilities, we think, of governments and business leaders, and through activism and lobbying societies are large, to also establish the parameters for the new technology. That means regulations. It means making sure that technology and security isn't just done, but it is heavily regulated to remove the unscrupulous elements and trust, and obviously remove the cybersecurity elements and issues of such case. But thankfully, it is also recognized that tools and platforms in the fourth industrial revolution has enarmed the average citizen with, for example, social media. It makes it easier for at any time in history to launch a campaign for the betterment of communities, large and small. Just speaking about social media, piece good of advice that if anyone is off on holiday or going to travel anywhere, please don't post it on your Facebook or post it on your other areas. Here in the UK, one of the areas we had lots of problems is that targeted criminals, smart criminals like Frank has mentioned, would always just go to your Facebook, look at your post and know you're not at home and come and buggle. But anyway, but in a good way, it's a brilliant way to obviously share in communities what is the problem in the neighborhood and be obviously to be able to resolve the problems. So for technology to be fully intelligent, and we need to look at the application of security systems within the context of a structure that relies upon decision-making and reactions that we previously always undertaken by human activities. So which AI, for example, may undertake, or perhaps we should say will replicate. So, speech recognition, learning, planning, so machine learning, planning, problem solving, and such like is being used at the moment. So knowledge engineering and machine learning is at the heart of AI to train operators to become ever more efficient and effective and intelligent security system. When given any abundance of information to learn about in its world, will be able to determine and implement relevant problem solvings accordingly. So technology such as this does exist, and although many such systems are in the infancy or early learning planning stages, even in Kenya, we see, like in China, from a control room in Beijing, smart facial recognition technology is already a reality. There's a blueprint as to how security will probably play out in the many cities across the world, in the case of neighborhoods and communities. And then such systems in China, for example, they utilize more than 20 million AI cameras powered by technology similar to those that we are becoming more and more prevalent, and which are being developed and with greater and greater regularity around the world. I'm glad to say that in Kenya, this technology is taking place, being adopted in residential areas, communities, and buildings, etc. And here at OptiWatch Control Room, we have now adopted and monitoring residential homes, churches, buildings, high areas under this technology. So training personnel monitoring this AI. So it is becoming the way to go. As we've seen, our city have got cameras, and with these cameras are being monitored from our control rooms in also the government control room. So this is taking place and is wonderful. So OptiWatch Limited Remote Monitoring Center is also able to operate, integrate most of the technology. And also now, due to the data laws, we also use GDPR and adopt the data privacy policy in Kenya, which is wonderful to make sure that we mitigate crime, and we regulate also the way this technology is being used. Of course, many people have fallen foul of privacy and use of technology. And this is something that the Data Protection Act enacted in 2019. We want to see that will help a lot. So anything of anyone else setting up a monitoring center or technology and using it must be able to make sure that this is something that we check up with them and very carefully make sure that this isn't an issue. So just a bit about the design of technology. I'll just go through that quickly. We use a model called CEPTED, and within CEPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design, we then look at the models that we use. And one of the models, we call it the onion ring or defense in-depth approach. The point to this is that although we want to talk about technology and the wonderful things about it, it is very important that there's a structure in designing it. There's a structure in how we think about what is it that we can best use in the technology. Is it affordable? Is it regulated? What are the needs of the environment that we're going to protect? And that's very critical to assess and learn. And through this operation of the CEPTED and the onion rings approach, defense in that, we're very proud also that we are working with the AAK, the Architectural Association of Kenya, and others, and to train them on how this is adopted. So when we look at designing buildings, designing communities, designing all of this, it then works in hand in terms of working out what is the issues. So a quick overview, when we look at the environment, as one of the areas we look at the defense, the environment. What is the environment? Where are we building? Is it a place like, for example, difference between Karen and Donholm or other areas? It's a difference in the way the environment is. We look at the grounds and perimeter. What are we bringing in around? At a wall? Are we looking at electrical fence? Are we looking at cameras such as thermal cameras, and what are we looking at to protect the area? So we then look at the buildings, we then look at the internal areas, and we also look at the object. So that's the asset. Are we actually protecting the asset that is required to be protected? This is what now makes us to now think about the idea of what is the best technology to use. So SEPTED in its principles is by far what I've said is about how we look at the principles of designing out crime. So it's crime prevention through environmental design. Then mostly we obviously bring in and say, right, so situational crime prevention, we want to reduce and limit the physical opportunities conducive to crime. And then our job security companies and integrators of security is to increase the risk of the offender being caught. So in that regard is the different ways we look at it is physical security. We look at surveillance, so designing and ensuring the guests are able to be observed. And to be observed means sure we've got cameras, but these cameras must be monitored. Frank is right. The idea of cameras and surveillance, it doesn't matter what type of cameras you have. It doesn't matter the high end of it, that they are AI, facial recognition, or ANPR cameras. It is imperative that it must be monitored in real time, and that makes them as proactive as they can. So speaking to a good monitoring center is one of the best ways to make sure that it works. Then we go to about management and maintenance. We've got defensive space. But movement control, something I want to speak about. When we're designing and we're looking at the technology to manage movement and control, we are saying if the guards are the first line of defense, well, how do we manage them through technology and innovation? Should we give them an iPad whereby they can be able to log in whoever is coming in to visit the apartment, and when that happens, the owner of the apartment can see it in real time. He can then allow or disallow. So that removes these black books that are written, nothing wrong with them, but the data in them must be protected. How do we then make sure that all this data is protected through cyber security, the privacy is protected? How do we make sure that someone can log into this information in real time? So I think there's a good way innovation and technology can also look at a accepted approach, which means even though the designs at building were not done to have, for example, an intercom service, this technology and innovation can happen and can be able to be the ones to work with. I also look at, in protection, we want to look at how do we look at the, the environment that we are looking at, whether we are naturally, so inclusion of basic security and behavior influences how space and buildings are used. So these are that design level. How do we look at that and design it in that way? What's the thought process? Then organization. How do we formally have police involvement, planning, council planning involvement? How do we work together to make sure that this will be, when technology is applied, all these components can come together effortlessly. And then how do we then bring in security, which is like CCTV, locks, lighting, etc. So SEPTED is, in summary, is focused on natural crime prevention strategies, and with good designs and accounting for physical and electronic security and technology, then it will help to remove any crime and prevent any crime as it happens. I think police and architects and planning engaged in design and planning processes, and the principle of SEPTED applied, opportunities for crime and disorder and consequent calls for the service are reduced. So communities and the police will reduce in how much they get involved by proper planning. So the IoT and cybersecurity, I think, is an important area I want to talk about. As much as technology is very useful, we want to really apply cybersecurity and IoT and thinking thoroughly. How do we engineer technology through, first of all, making sure everything is secure. The cybersecurity is involved, and the thinking in that place is properly done. In the UK recently, we're having a lot of, for example, there's a lot of home working, and there's a lot of people working from home, and a lot of kit being because of COVID. That has brought in a lot of issues within the communities and homes, whereby theft has increasing hard. It has occurred because it is very easy to know people at home, and so vehicles are being stolen. A vehicle with a push button is easier to then just come and steal it, and they are being stolen quite a lot. Of course, data is at home. People are working from home. There's a lot of data at home. There's a lot of kits. There's a lot of laptops and so on and so forth from home. So we need those protected. We need good intruder alarms. We need good surveillance cameras that are able to be monitored remotely and are able to work. So adoption of that is quite important. So you know, another area that we've looked at as I move to wrap up in technologies in the home areas and residential, or is perhaps even in the future how the use of drones will be used to help protect residents. A drone flying above a residential property or a gated community and a security guard walking beside it is one of the areas we've seen that has taken quite a good shape in how security technology is observed, is done. So all we need is a 4G connectivity in a drone, and it can do all the patrols, and it can work in the way that it is intended to help in securing. So in the sense that adapting security solution for obviously post-pandemic world means that the most important thing is to find the best way where we can limit the amount of the physical and human involvement in security, and adapting technology, as I said, such as the drone technology, which I know is the future, but it's something in Kenya I think will be coming in. The adoption of cameras which will be surveilled remotely, and any other technology, home alarm systems, etc. And home alarm systems have worked and have moved on very well, whereby not only will the home alarms go off, and if an alarm is raised, we can touch the whole community. And if home number 5 has an alarm, all the other houses can be informed of the alarm, and then the command center can now take effect. The command center can look at these systems in real time and will be able to help this situation. So I think in conclusion, what I just want to talk about is that technology is dynamic, of course. Kenya is brilliant because we have had for a long time legacy systems. So adoption of new technology has been one of the best things I've observed, and the best things we've done for the many organizations that we worked with, including, homes, high-end residential homes, Ministry of Defense, and other sectors. I want to really emphasize on how the community and the residential associations, and I want to emphasize on other stakeholders, the Safaricoms, integrators like ourselves, control room companies such as ourselves, the police, architects, and all of us should really work hand in hand very, very strongly to come and really piece all these things together. The regulation, the government has put together the Private Surveillance Act, which is about CCTV regulation. How do we look at all this and regulate all of this such that as we apply technology, as we apply accepted principles, designing out crime, as we apply wonderful, good governance in residential associations, good security policies in residential association, how we adopt technology, how we use it, will be able to make even this fantastic opportunity of technology to grow even further, to protect our homes, and to make sure that we live happily and we are able to have things in real time and be very proactive with the technology. So with that, thank you very much, and I appreciate the time you've given us. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chege, for that very, very informative presentation. You've touched on a number of areas that are very pertinent to the discussion that we're having today, about regulation, training, environment, where we are putting up technology, of course, coordination between various agencies, and even the very critical issue about data protection as we embrace technology. Issues about use of drones and many others. I think you've touched basically on all aspects of discussion today, and I'm sure that our participants are getting well informed. So having listened to Mr. Chege, I want to go to our last panelist, who is going to speak to us on the subject of discussion today. And Colonel retired Julius Githiri is the Executive Director of Institute of Professional Security Studies. So he's going to address the topic of discussion from his perspective, of course, as an institute, and also as an expert in the issues of security and technology. As I said earlier, if you have a question that you may want to ask the panelists, you can raise your hands. Otherwise, you can also post a question or comment on the chat box, the Q&A section, or on the chat box, and we'll be able to pick it up and direct it to our panelists after this last presentation. Remember also that we are trending on Twitter, hashtag neighborhood security, so you can also interact from that platform. We're also having this live streamed on Facebook, and you can follow on that platform as well. So, Bwana Githiri, please take the floor and speak to us on the subject of discussion today.
Thank you, Henry. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, you can.
And good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Franklin, for the intro. For me, is to try and ensure we now put the whole thing together. I think the million-dollar question is how to. How do we implement, how do we ensure, and how do we integrate technology into our security design? And therefore, in partnership with CARA, we are happy to introduce the Community Security and Safety Program. I'm sure we have heard from Tim about the Secure by Design. We have heard about CEPTED, crime prevention through environmental design. So let me go ahead and demystify what is Community Security and Safety Program. And I will also attempt to ensure I explain the role and its purpose and how it can help us to achieve the objective of any security program. Any security attempts to ensure that we can prevent, deter, detect, delay, and of course respond to any type of threat or risks that we might be facing. We are therefore at the stage where we must transform our traditional way of managing and handling security and start bringing in cost-effective measures to help us provide a safe and secure environment. So let me state from the word go that why we have all these concepts or programs is to ensure that our security programs are properly structured so that we do not start the whole concept of plug and play, and in the process we lose out on the major advantages that technology and a well-designed security program provides us. I'm happy that this particular event that we are having this afternoon brings together all stakeholders who share a common vision. I remember one time we have attempted to call it many names, including usalama mitaani, usalama wa msingi, and usalama mashinani. But basically, it is a concept that brings community at the center of security. We anchor our security programs and communities and our whatever at the community level. And by so doing, we ensure that the residents association, for example, they are key players in our private security industry. And this is because there are investors, there are families in there, and there are people in there who want a quality lifestyle. And therefore, it is important that Usalama Mashinani is anchored at the community level. It is important that we raise our awareness and have a common understanding of what a community security program looks like and how it is structured. And it will help us to ensure that we have a security and safety culture in our communities, in our neighborhood. And I'm happy that Kara is prepared to do that, is prepared to raise the awareness, is prepared to ensure that we do not have those inherent legal responsibilities and obligations. Some of them might catch up with us as chairman and investors in our communities. We have already had the benefits of real-time responsibility, and to ensure that we have accountability and real-time surveillance programs. So please allow me to say that a community security and safety program is structured on 4 pillars. And one of them is what we understand as physical security. And physical security is what we deal with when we do perimeter fencing, is what we deal with when we do IDS, the intrusion detection system, is what we deal with when we are attempting to ensure that we have proper access control in our places. We have proper visitor management programs, and some of that could be, and some of them are still, some people are still doing that manually, especially the visitor management programs. But there is a lot of benefit, and the technology, we have been told and we have been assured that it's already with us. So physical security as a pillar, electronic security programs, which Tim has elaborately explained what it involves and how it comes into play. And then how do we change our concept of man guarding? Because we will still continue to have a human being managing our gates and our areas, but we must move away from the traditional watchman concept to a proper security officer with the right skills and competencies to manage technology, who is properly vetted. And I'm happy to say now we have the Private Security Regulatory Act 2016, which came into effect on 3rd of June 2016. We have the Occupational Health and Safety Program, the 2007 Act. And last but not least, we all know the importance of having proper security plans, what we call FSPs. Do you have a facility security plan for your neighborhood, for your organization? Is it properly documented? Are the SOPs clear? Is there a policy? What are the site instructions that you are undertaking, especially to deal with emergencies, to deal with contingencies, to deal with the terrorism threat that we are currently experiencing, to deal with the crime that we are witnessing? Why are we discussing all this? It is because the security threats and risks have mutated and have changed over the years. We are now seeing a more sophisticated way of conducting crimes. We are seeing young, intelligent young people who are well educated, and therefore we cannot continue to manage threat and risks the same way we have always done. Otherwise, we shall continue losing out. We cannot continue having our security programs being reactive. They must be proactive by plugging them into a central command and control system. And therefore, it is important to take advantage of the available technology, to take advantage of what Franklin is telling us in terms of infrastructure, and knowing that today's biggest threat is what we call the internal threat. The person who will attack your home, your resident, is a person who knows the area, is a person who already knows how you operate. And therefore, it's very easy if you're operating on a single layer of security measure or system, it's very easy to be compromised. And we need to ensure that we achieve the depth that Tim was talking about. We achieve the layered concept, and our facility security plans are properly designed and structured. We are happy that now intrusion detection systems are cheaper. We have laser beams. We have security lighting systems that light up when there is somebody moving from one point to the next, and they alert the guards. So let's take advantage of all that. And they provide what we call an early warning system. If your security system does not give you an early warning, therefore you are reacting after. And we all know that, for example, just to use the fire system as an example, you can have a fantastic home, but if you do not have a smoke detector is 2,500 bob, you will end up fighting a fire. So detection, ile tunaambiwa prevention is better than cure. It is the best approach to our security systems. So we are happy to say today that the technology is available, the expertise is available, the knowledge is here with us. It is up to us to, as stakeholders, join hands together, and we provide that quality lifestyle that we are looking for, provide the security and safety that our families desire, and we must ensure that even our locking systems, today you can have a keyless home. It's very cheap, so why continue having keys that can be duplicated? Why not take advantage of the available security locks and locking systems? Why not have excellent emergency preparedness programs and response programs? What about your communication? Are you still depending on the old systems? And how do you alert people if there is an emergency? All these we will be able to put it together and coordinate it from a single platform in a well-structured security plan. So please allow me to say that for the time being, for the sake of time. And it all starts by a very good structured program on what we call a TVA, a threat and vulnerability assessment, which will help you to design the security plan or the security program that you're looking for. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, everybody. And good afternoon to all the participants.
Thank you very much, Nagidiri, for that presentation, and specifically focusing on community security and safety program, which will definitely be a game changer in terms of how we support our community to be more effective and to be able to take charge of security in their neighborhood. Of course, you've touched on many areas where I don't want to repeat, and want to proceed to the participant. We had said that if you have a question, you can raise up your hand. So far, I'm not seeing any hand raised, but we have questions posted on chat box and others that were sent in advance. So having listened to our panelists, before I go to the questions that were posted or the ones that were sent in advance, I've seen 2 hands raised. We are going to unmute Alex Ndili to ask his question. Just like we said, this to the point. So Alex Ndili, please proceed and ask the question.
He's still
Alex?
muted. He's muted.
Unmute. Okay, I think Alex has dropped. There's a hand raised from a gadget, Huawei Wi-Fi 2019. I can't see your name. If you are the owner of that gadget, please consider and ask a question. Huawei Wi-Fi 2019.
He's muted.
Huawei, please unmute your mic from your end. Oh, I think there's a problem. Atanam, can you be able to ask your question? Unmute your mic.
I have unmuted. Can you hear me?
Okay, from here, I can hear you. Proceed.
Yeah. Thank you, Henry, for this wonderful webinar. My question, I have raised it on the chat, but I thought I should raise it just in case time is not available to deal with it. My concern is the issue of costs, whether it is power, internet, or even the gadgets. Is there anything, what's the strategy being employed to deal with issues of cost so as to improve adoption and penetration among Kenyans? Because these security issues are absolutely dependent on technology, and we are absolutely agreed that we need to adopt it. But cost is prohibitive, whether it's internet, power, and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nam, for that question. I'm sure to be responded to. Alex Ndili, can you now be able to ask your question? Can I unmute from your end?
Yeah, thank you, Henry. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I have only two concerns. Number one, I have to thank you for bringing us together to this forum. And I have one question for Charo. And we have to thank you for the role you are playing in providing mobile security. Now, looking at the data that you have given us on the connectivity, we still see that we have a big gap for connectivity. You are expecting that you would be connecting 1 million users in the next 1 year. Now, going back to the community, and my understanding of community here is those outside the gated community. How best can we already utilize the local connectivity that you have already done? Wanjiku has the small mobile phone that does not have any 4G or anything like that. How would you bring that section of community in? Then number two, I would wish to address this one to Team Chege. Now, Team Chege, you have an elaborate network of technology, security in technology. But then for purposes of response, how do you interface your programs, your security programs, with the government programs? For instance, what we have at the National Police Service headquarters, it is called Integrated Command and Control Center, where, for instance, what happens in one area, this information can reach this center in real time to allow timely response. Then maybe finally for Mr. Gidiri, Kano Gidiri, yeah, you have given us a very comprehensive understanding of this structure for community security. Now, my concern here is how do we bring in security to address crimes against the person? This time, not crimes committed within a secluded facility. Thank you, Ost.
Thank you very much, Alex, for those very useful questions. And the panelists will be able to respond to them. Those Huawei Wi-Fi 2019. Can you be able now to talk now? Introduce yourself. Proceed. think we have a problem with that connection. Lastly, let's hear from JFK, please. Your hand is raised. JFK, unmute and talk. Unmute and talk.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. The webinar has been interesting. You've given us quite a lot of information that we tend to have overlooked, but it's really, really important in matters of our security. So my question comes in. I would just love the panelists to maybe expand more on how we can integrate the idea of Internet of Things at home with this whole idea of security. Thank you.
Much for that. So we have a number of questions to the panelists. Maybe they'll respond to that. Then we can be able to have time to take a few more. So there's a question on cost elements, and I would like Charo to touch on this. Respond to one that is directly related to the second participant asked a question. So, Frank Charo, can you please be able to respond to those questions and any other that you think can be able to give an input?
Yeah. Thank you. So I'll take the question on cost, and I've picked also a few other questions, and maybe I'll take a bunch before I pass over to other panelists to deal with a few others. So on the question of cost, yeah, this is an area that we need to continue working on to bring the cost of connectivity down. And this is in two areas, both the cost of the devices and also the cost of the service, whether it's the data bundle or the fixed internet connectivity. So we've been working progressively to drive the costs down, referring specifically to the question from Alex on the low income with very low end device, how do we get them connected? Seen from last year, we've now started retailing 4G devices at $39.99, and we recently started a credit model called Lipa Mdogo Mdogo, where customers can get a device and pay a 20 shilling subscription daily. So this is all in an effort to try and bring more people into data connectivity. That's on the individual level because they're looking at the device. When it comes to, say, residence security, I feel this is where the power of collectivity, the power of togetherness comes, because at a residence association level, then it's a bit easier for a group of people to come together and pool funds to have a security solution that is covering the entire premise. And this then becomes a bit easier, a lighter burden to the individual compared to, say, each of the residents trying to deploy a full solution just around their premise. Besides that, I think there was a question that I picked from the Q&A and also from earlier regarding working with the local authorities or working with the government. I think this is where I think Julius was coming in to say it's a whole structured program. It's one thing, and say it's one thing even with a surveillance camera to see armed intruder coming in. The next question is, what are you going to do about it? and that's where we feel this calls for a full spectrum partnership to know how we can then integrate to the different agencies so that we can actually take action when these things are picked up. There was the government project when I asked on the security cameras, and we already have a lot of cameras that Safaricom in partnership with other players deployed for the government. And for the different local authorities, we still engage in other areas of the country where we may have projects like this. But of course, there's also the part of rights and access. Once we have these cameras in public places, who should have access to them? How is that data utilized? Which then it says in the domain of then the policy makers and the government to ensure there's then proper monitoring and response to what is being viewed in those cameras, and the privacy of the public is protected, so that you also don't have surveillance systems being put in areas that can then be misused by other parties. And another question I'll take from, I think this came earlier, was on fiber cuts, because this is one of the challenges then we face, especially in the developing countries. And Kenya, anyone who passes around, you just need to stay in your house for, I don't know, a couple of weeks. If you go out, you'll find new buildings have sprouted. And in the last couple of months, with the expressway that is coming across the city, we've had a lot of fiber cuts in the Mombasa Road area, in the Mountain View area. And just last week, those were in, say, in the Kahawa, Githurai, the drainage works being done, then we face a lot of cuts. So this is a continual engagement that we have with the authorities to elevate, not just to the residents and to the private developers, but even at policy level, to start viewing data, to start viewing fiber the same way we look at electricity and water, as in it's at that level. And if anything, last year with the pandemic and the push to work and learn from home showed how important this data connectivity is, and now it is the responsibility of all of us to take care of this. If it's for the developers, if you come across fiber, just notify the relevant providers, and normally, provided the notice is given, we relocate it, we take it up, move it. You can clear the drainage, or because these things we understand need to happen. Being a developing country is just having that framework that we can reduce service interruption that happens in different areas of the country due to this. And maybe the final question I'll take before passing back to the other panelists is a query from, I think, James on the chat on what we can do regarding cybersecurity. We mentioned lightly on that, but was referring more to the question of the youth being radicalized online, the various, say, dating sites that can lure minors into the social ills. And for that, there's the physical security, and here we are now looking at within the home, and there are different solutions for that. Specifically for us from Safaricom, we have a solution called SecureNet that we deploy on our home fiber that then allows the parents to control in different areas, say, to control the time the internet is on, so that when you are sleeping, kids are not in their bed with phones continuing to browse. You can actually deploy a quiet time at certain hours when the internet is completely off. Parental control, and in two different ways. You can select groups of sites, for example, saying only educational sites can be accessed at certain times, or maybe at all times. Complete blocking of some of those, say, adult sites that you don't want to be accessed. You also have specific ones. If you have a URL that you don't want to be accessed, that you can deploy there. And you're continuing to drive this kind of solution to our customers. From 1st of March, we recently, as said, announced new propositions. We'll have these solutions by default to our gold and diamond customers, and at 200 shillings to the rest of the base. That then you can have this feature, which will also offer on our mobile application, which then makes it easy for customers to set up these rules to control and to avoid these kinds of things happening within the home. I hope I've answered a number of questions. I'll maybe pass to other panelists, then I'll come back for another set. Still have like 8 more questions that I haven't responded to.
Thank you very much, Franklin, for that response. You covered quite a number of questions, some from the chat box. There are questions that were directly related to Mr. Chege, integrating your government program, and others on the chat box. So, Chege, please, if you can just pick up those and give them a response.
Yes, thank you very much, Henry, and also for Frank to answering some of those pertinent questions. I want to talk about the cost of security. That's a very interesting question, and I think very important. We can be speaking about technology and getting the best security programs out, but yes, what is the cost of that? What I want to say is that the way security and technology, some of it is designed, is surveyed, the needs are assessed. Some of the flaws we see in some of the the areas where some customers come to us. What I mean by that is, if you survey, a good place is surveyed, do we need 10 cameras? Do you need 5 cameras? Can you do cameras that can be remotely monitored? So can they be also put on hire? Can you, there's so many other ways around it to reduce the cost. The CapEx cost of security solutions, yes, can be high, but as a business at Opticom, we do these wonderful solutions where we survey the property, we absolutely get right the needs, we actually do the risk assessment properly, we make sure that the deployments will be done right. So all of those areas are looked at, as we mentioned earlier, about how to design a security system. But one of the things that are important is that if you hire systems and rent them out and monitor, then the cost of it is used. And not only that, you're able to, of course, offload some of the other costs that can be associated in your security. So the return of investment can be there. But yeah, importantly, what are your needs? What sort of cameras are you looking for? I'd walked into some customer that they were doing so much in cameras, like a 20 megapixel camera that had been offered, and the question was, why do you need a 20 megapixel camera? Some other customer was looking at a huge investment in CCTV, and the question is why. They said it's because the generators are being stolen. I said, well, some of the accepted principles are you can target harden, so you can chain the generator on the floor using concrete. You can target harden, you can do several ways, so you don't then need 30 cameras, you maybe need 20 cameras. So it's a good way of surveying, a good way of addressing the needs of the customer, a good way of finding the right manufacturer, a good way of finding, do you want it as do you want it monitored, do you want it as a service and a rental, so which will be cheaper. Let me jump into Alex's question in terms of security in technology and programs in terms of response. So that's another great question. So the idea of monitored solutions and the idea that security is proactive is this, is that it's picked up in a few seconds, minutes. So from our control room, for instance, when an alarm is picked up, it's picked up in a way that there's somebody intruding, there's an alarm that has gone off, there's a fire panel that's gone off, the alarm is received within seconds. Bearing in mind, I mentioned earlier that we use artificial intelligence. So this is thoroughly filtered and it is accurate alarming. That's key, that the alarming is very accurate. And so the systems that have been deployed on site received is accurate. Once that is accurate, then the response must be the SOPs. Do we call the police? Do we call the neighborhood? Do we contact the person involved? Or in an instant in where we protect residential homes in Kenya, we have adapted speakers. So we deploy speakers, and those speakers, we're able from a control room center, ask the perpetrator to leave. So it will be like, you with a red shirt, wewe umeingia tumeita polisi, go away. If it's a home where we used to see a lot of carjackings outside somebody's gate, we deploy a PTZ or a camera outside your gate. If somebody is hanging around, we use the speaker to ask them to leave. So the idea is, if we can make it proactive and more preventative, then the other areas are well taken care of. Of course, the SOP then becomes, the next procedure is that we then contact the police, we contact the guarding company that could be stationed outside, who will then come. Here's the beauty. When it is being surveilled, you can now coordinate with the police, we can coordinate with the guarding company, and using a monitoring center, you can view, like I see the picture behind me, you can see the whole perspective of where it is. So in my speech, speech earlier, I did mention that the cohesion and the collaboration between police in terms of design and the police in terms of how proactive architects are also looking at the designing buildings, how they can gain access, how they cannot gain access, and the also regulation. We need to manage the regulation very well, that the police will say, we will only respond, or we will respond to alarms that are verified. We will respond to this, we will respond to that. And so that the visual, the surveillance cameras are at a place whereby, that they can be used in a court of law. So the resolutions, for example, being deployed can be used in a court of law. So Alex, there's a few things that work to make sure that the response by the police, when the perpetrators are caught or handled, it can also be used in a court of law to be able to make sure that the person is prosecuted. But also preventative measures are much more important. And that's why we speak quite a lot, and we are really encouraging the idea of the remote monitoring. The actual real-time monitoring is one of the best solutions to prevent the issue into escalation. Right. Jeff, you asked a question about IoT and home security and the IoT at home. So cybersecurity is the state or process of protecting systems, networks, devices, and programs from any type of attack. And cybersecurity is important because it's on the rise, Jeff. That is increasingly on the rise. We see a lot of that, and we're glad for the Data Protection Act that's come on board, because this stops a lot of that, and especially companies that are fundamentally responsible for data should take more care. But the importance of it is that fundamentally, with the society, is more technologically reliant than ever. So we are using, as Colonel said, the keyless doors, for example. We are having push button cars that start with a push button. So so it is very important that sensitivity of this data is protected. So we come about it, and securing systems against data is set up through adopting a secured by design model that I spoke about earlier, or Colonel spoke about. It is pertinent and sacrosanct that any design of a system, it is protected through cybersecurity. When we designed system years ago, we used to have the kit, and then we'd have the deployment, and then we would think of internet security or the security. Now it's the other way around. We have to adopt the security first and then move it along that way. So it should start with the security, and of course, giant tech firms as well as startups should incorporate security everywhere in their initial designs and design process. So if you're buying a camera, if you're buying a home equipment, please make sure that you look at the data sheets and you look at the encryptions. The encryptions should be at a certain degree. So if you have a home alarm system that I can go at the back and use a jammer to jam it, then what's the point? So look at all of these and questions the integrators. Question them and look at what regulations are they using. Make sure that they are engineers of good caliber. We don't want engineers that if they leave the premises, they go with your IP addresses and they can engage. So make sure that all these things are handed over properly. Let's engage in data minimization to avoid risks. Engage in the way that you can be changing your passwords all the time, and you can adapt these things. Increase transparency and provide consumers with notice and choice of unexpected. So providers, we need to engage very much with our consumers and users of our systems to make sure that we are avoiding behavior, we are mitigating risk. Because at the end of the day, even for us, where we provide the service that is remote viewing, it is our responsibility to make sure that there is no occurrence of cybersecurity through how we work or how our employees work, and make sure that any device that we make sure that we give out is very well protected. We adopt the GDPR rules, as I said, that in Kenya. So I'm a data protection officer myself. I'm responsible. My colleagues in our global operational center are also data protection officers, and we thoroughly take them through data protection principles and the learning. So that is important. I was going to just mention about the fiber cuts just briefly, and it's a good point and good way that we've looked at it. But I want to say that with the beauty of Safaricom, we've engaged with Frank, and I'm very excited about a GSM model router that they have launched. And this is very exciting for us. I must say, in the UK, a lot of our deployments on GSM, because it's very crucial that not everywhere must have a connectivity to maintain security. Not everywhere should have power. So we do have solutions that don't rely on power and do not rely on connectivity. So they have a battery park or can use a solar panel, and then the connectivity is through the GSM, through the SIM card. So I'm very excited to know about what Safaricom have launched, because it's very important that all of this we can now go all the way nationwide in terms of protection. So in terms of fiber cuts, yes, they're there, but a lot of areas that can utilize the GSM systems. So security cameras now use GSM. We have intruder alarms, fire alarms, and all other devices that use GSM. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Achega, for that very fast response. There was a question related to Giri, so maybe we can take up that and then we go to Chris.
Thank you very much, Henry, and thank you, Tim and Franklin. Let me start by talking about crime, or how to prevent or prevention of crime, whether it's against an asset or whether it's against a person. It starts by doing a proper profile assessment, even of you as a person. What do you do? What activities are you engaged in? How much information does a potential criminal have about you? How often do you go to the bank? What kind of domestic workers do you have? All these things in terms of your profile helps a potential criminal collect information and data about you. It's the same thing about social engineering. And that's the only way they are able to identify you as a potential target. And therefore, it is important that we learn how to protect our information. It's important to ensure that we know how to and who we interact with. And that's the only way. And of course, it comes through a lot of awareness and many things like that. Yes, there is a lot of sophistication. There is a way of profiling an individual or even a potential target. And we can take that offline just so that we don't take too much time. In terms of just talking about cost, let's say that security incidences are expensive. We can learn from Westgate, we can learn from Dusit. If you do not take preventive measures, the cost of repairing, the cost of bringing your business or your home back to action is extremely expensive. So the old concept of prevention is better than cure helps. So we are saying, even when you're designing a gated community, if you integrate security measures in the plan, it makes it cost effective. If the secure by design principles are followed, it makes it cost effective. Whether you're doing a standalone home, when you are doing your own construction, or you are a member of a gated community, all that will be addressed in different stages of the project. And we know that gated communities and most residential associations have managed to deal with the cost issue because the security is managed from a central area, and whatever they are charging as service charge is able to take care of security and garbage collection and most of the other things. However, in a risk-based approach, we will be able to provide a solution that meets whatever budget that you might have and give you a solution that meets whatever risk or threats that you might be exposed to. And that's why we are calling it a structured approach. So let me say that for the sake of time, and once again say thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Banagajiri. And ladies and gentlemen, we're now coming towards the end of our session today. So I'm going to give the panelists an opportunity to make closing remarks. Of course, just respond to one question each. And so starting with Banaucharo, there's most of the questions that we received prior to this particular session was the resident association asking how they can partner, or how Safaricom can partner with them to establish security or technology within their residential areas. For instance, CCTV, estates, and many other security initiatives using technology. So as Safaricom and of course Carol, are there ways that you can be able to from the resident association that Safaricom can partner with them, maybe using the home fiber within the estate to ensure that they are actually having an uptake of the technology to provide solutions to the security challenges. We can answer that as you also make your closing remark.
Thank you. And as we come to a close, it was a pleasure being with you this evening. We continue working to improve. So we've made some steps, but we still have quite some way to go. And regarding what we are working and what we can do with the residents associations and with CARA as the alliance of the same, is to try and simplify this process. What we find is that everyone knows that there's some form of security solutions, but it's very complex for most people and even for most residents association. So what we can, the role we see Safaricom can play in this is working with the different partners in the security area, seeing that we are providing connectivity solution, is to try and package different kind of solutions for different kind of residents. We cannot overemphasize what Julia says, that security assessment is very important. And there are even questions of people saying they're on bordering riparian land, so there's no fence on one side. How about a 700 complex, home complex? How about a 5-home complex? So there are solutions to all these, and the security assessments would help to arrive at that. Our role is to help to package these things, working with the different partners. And that's where we feel we can continue progressing. On one side, building the enablers, continuing our connectivity, driving our coverage across the country. On the other hand, working with the different security partners and in association with CARA, so that we can simplify this and we can give the residents associations options. So we can say for this kind of a residence, this is the kind of a solution at basic, but you need an assessment to find the final something that can work for you. Thank you very much. I see we are out of time. It was really a pleasure to be here today, and I hope to continue this engagement with yourselves.
Very much, Charo, for that response. And now we are going to go to Chege, as you also make a closing remark. You can just touch briefly on how effective the use of ICT in security. The situation where we have huge building complex, about 700 houses. And also there was a question about how can this be applied in the slum areas, for instance. Is it possible to have technology application on security in slum areas? So we can respond to that as also make a
Yeah, sorry, Henry. I just want to catch the first question. I missed it a bit. The connectivity was a...
The question was how effective is ICT in dealing with security issues in a large housing complex with, for instance, over 700 houses and also in slum areas?
Okay, thank you very much. And once again, I think I just want to thank everyone for being present, all the participants, great questions and posts, and I'm really just very, very humbled that I was participating in these, and it's an extremely good informative session. Just to first, with the answers, with the approach to a 700 housing, must start with the accepted approach. Is one of those questions I love talking to architects, and we want to look at, and even if the building has been built, it's not a problem. We want to look at how the access to the property is done. So the environment, what does the environment look like? What is it around the area? So if it is a slum area, or if it is Karen, or if it is where, we look at what we call situational crime prevention model, right? So how quickly does the police respond in Karen, and how quickly do the police respond in a crime area? And also the rationale of the criminal, what is it there? So the rationale of a criminal in Kibera, maybe, or slum area is the following, that if he commits a crime, in 2 minutes, he'll be gathered, he will be stoned, he will be put at a chomwa, he'll be done with. So the rationale is then, the opportunity is lower of me to gain what I need to gain. And the risk is higher for me to be stoned to death or be killed. So the criminals think in that rationale. Look at Karen, and you're putting up a 700 housing unit in an affluent area. The opportunity to go in and steal in that or bagel is great, right? So you can find an iPad, you can find phone, whatever they could find. So the opportunity is greater. What about the risk of being caught? It might be lower. So the way police respond in Karen area or respond in a certain area is lower than the way they respond in certain areas. So in terms of designing out how we then say you need this amount of technology is based on these rationales, is based on this particular thinking. So in a slum area, we want to say there's no need to utilize probably high-end technology or high-end things because we want to look at that particular rationale. But in terms of areas of how the community can work together, I spoke about a community-based program, for example, or how the technology base could be a simple alarm system or a simple system that can raise an alarm. And if it raises an alarm, can it be wired to the entire community so that if the response unit takes longer, it means that everybody within a certain short space of time can be aware of the certain crime. And in a high-rise area is different. We want to look at the lighting and probably how does the building get designed in terms of lighting as you come in. Some buildings do require ANPR cameras. We want to know who's stand up, what car is stand up, and all the rest of it. How do we make sure that the access control is managed? For example, especially where it's a mixed-use building, there's elements of access control, there's elements of parking, there's elements of parking areas that are underneath, up. There's all these areas to look at, and how does access get granted, and how do we know somebody going to floor number 15 is actually the resident? So we then deploy numerous areas of access control. Movement, as I said earlier, movement management is extremely crucial. Who comes in at the gate? How does he get logged in? Where is he visiting? Did he have an appointment? And all this is logged in a very good way that technology and innovation is real time. So there's several ways of looking at the difference between a slum area or a high-rise apartment or even high-end apartments, etc. So there's different ways of looking at it. So that's one of the ways to look at that. I hope I've answered that question, but I know we've been asked to provide details. If anyone wants more questions deeper, I'll be happy to answer. But as I conclude, I just want to say that innovation and technology is a strategy to which we leverage security solutions and services to reduce the cost of insecurity and safety, and increase peace of mind and get families to be happy, etc. It is very important. So we do that technology. We do that through managed services. Managed services, as I said earlier, are extremely important. You do not need to think about how you get connectivity. You don't want to think about where you can find it. You don't want to think about paying the cameras. You don't want to think about the cost of doing that. You hire it as a service, as a managed service, and it works wonderfully. Because all you care about is that I've got 24/7 monitoring at all times. I'm informed about every situation in real time. That is what happens. So any system that you need can be deployed within 5 days, and you can start monitoring immediately, and your security is there immediately. We do services such as health monitoring, mobile health monitoring, and this is particularly, I find very close to me, that we use machine-to-machine technology. A device that somebody wears on the neck, they push the button. If they're feeling ill, or they're under some sort of incident of stroke or any incident. And what happens, it does just tell us where the person is in real time. It gives us information about their conditions, and then we can look at exactly where the closest response is, whether it's the ambulance, the police. And trauma control room, like what we have behind me, is able to now direct all these services directly to your home within several minutes. So managed services have come very far in terms of technology. So it's not only about the security of individual, it's about the safety as well of how that works out. And the last thing I want to say is that I'm very proud that somebody once mentioned about the pride that the global perspectives in looking at security and technology is globalized, and we do have very many global companies that come from abroad and come and do these solutions in Kenya. Now we have Kenyans. We have Kenyans who are bright, intelligent, smart, who know security, who know technology very well. So all these global ideas are now being delivered locally. So it is very exciting that nowadays we do not need to search far. We just need to search locally. We need to make sure, as I said earlier, that all these regulatory schemes, all regulatory areas are working. The governance, security policies are all, moved much quicker to make sure that everything that we look at from a global perspective can be delivered locally, to then bring about the greatest, one of the greatest services that we can showcase in residential communities and security general. So thank you very much for everyone, and for Tara and for my other panelists to come and speak about this. I'm very honored, and thank you very much.
Very much, Manachege, for those very, very useful remarks. Finally, we are going to have Managiri to also make his closing remarks. And maybe just in 1 minute, just tell us about the safety program. For resident association, for instance, wants to be how do they, where do they start? How do they engage?
Thank you, Henry. Yes, we are in partnership with Kara. I think everybody needs to know that. They just need to get in touch with Henry, and we are all available on real-time basis to ensure that we all embrace the community security and safety program through Kara. We will create the right awareness, we will do the education, we will ensure we work with the specific residents association to structure their security program and to ensure that their members get the quality lifestyle that they're looking for. Therefore, for us, this is exciting because this is the start of a journey that we all want to walk together, and we can answer the questions, and we can conduct risk assessments of the respective resident association, and tailor-make a program that fits their budget and time. And therefore, for today, let's say the journey has started, and thank you very much, Kara, for this occasion. And we are excited that with the support and through a shared vision, we will get where we want to go. Asanteni sana.
Very much, Managiri. Thank you, Manachege, Manocharo, for those very, very informative presentations. I'm sure that our participants are now better off in terms of knowledge and information compared to when they start. And we will endeavor as Kara to ensure that we continue providing information and, of course, sharing with you as much as we can through our partners and other experts. So we want to thank once again Safaricom for the partnership that we're having with them. It's because of this kind of partnerships that we're able to have these platforms to engage with various experts and, of course, with our members and wider public. So we appreciate that very much. We look forward to having more of this kind of engagement. We still have a number of webinars to hold in the coming months, and we'll be able to communicate to you and ensure that you are participating. We have a number of questions that came, some through the chat box, some were sent earlier. We are not able to respond to all of them at this particular time, but we will still engage with our panelists, share with them the question, and they can be able to give us responses, which you can then share with you through our various channels, through our newsletter and our social media platforms. So if you have a question that has not been answered, please note that we will get the response and then share with you in the time possible. So with those remarks, I want to thank all of you, beginning with the panelists and also the participants for creating time to participate in this useful discussion. And we look forward to continue engaging, continue sharing information and interacting so that we can be able to be at a better place as citizens of Kenya and as residents of Kenya to make informed choices and informed decisions about our well-being. So thank you very much, and be on the lookout for our next session of webinar. Asanteni sana. You are free now to log out.
Thank you very much, Henry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone, and have a nice evening.